Greetings all. Well, what's new in your neighborhood today? I noticed this morning that we are at the 50th anniversary of the Endangered Species Act. I guess that's a good thing, that we worry about preserving things that seem to be dying away. Most of it's due to human activity, usually. But it turns out that on the planet, Hawaii is home to 50% of all the endangered species on Earth. Yeah. It was a hard road for most things to get here. We're so far away from any other landmass that plants and fungi and animals and such that did make their way here to these islands over the time. Once they got here, there wasn't a lot of competition. Yeah, you didn't have a lot of this push, pull. Things didn't have big, sharp teeth. There weren't a lot of claws around or anything. And so the birds became flightless. The plants lost their spines. They lost their poisons. Originally, some of these plants had been some of the most weedy species on Earth. It's why they made it here, to get this far out here to the middle of the ocean. But once they got here, they all went aloha, man. The whole works just said, oh, here we are in Hawaii. Well, let's get rid of the poison, get rid of the spines. Let's make our habitat will propagate in specific, just one little niche. That's the problem. Yeah, and once you get into an environment and you create a cascade effect, you lose one species, all of a sudden the next species perhaps relied on something that species provided, and back and forth, so forth. You pull links out of the chain, and then pretty much the entire chain falls apart and begins to collapse in many cases. I don't think most of us actually fully realize that where we live in the United States, that generally most all of us are surrounded by environmental disasters. That is, that the countryside, the plants, the animals, and so on do not look anything like they did prior to settlement. Yeah, everything's changed dramatically. Most of the U.S. is covered in Eurasian weeds at this point. Yeah, Midwestern prairie species are almost completely extinct. I recall as a young man finding a prairie remnant in my hometown that nobody knew was there. It was boxed between railroad tracks and an industrial area, and saw a little triangle in there. And when I walked, it was like I was on Mars. I knew my plants pretty well, even in those days, and man, I never seen any of this stuff. When I figured out what I was looking at, I realized, it was native Illinois vegetation. I just had no idea what the state had looked like before settlement. Yeah, so there's your Endangered Species Act, and half of the stuff missing on the world is right here on this little chain of islands out in the middle of the Pacific. And I don't think things are getting better anytime soon. Yeah. Now we're losing the ohias. That's the major tree that would grow from short elevation here. We got the rapid ohia death is here. It's getting about that time where we would think about taking down the Christmas tree. Yeah, Christmas is behind us already at this point. There are interesting questions around all of that. Of course, I think the major issue will depend. Is your Christmas tree a cut living tree, a potted living tree, or is it an artificial tree? Because an artificial tree, if you want to leave it up till next Christmas, that's up to you, but they're hard to dust. When it comes to a potted tree, well, we used a potted tree. I had grown a Podocarpus gracillea, or a Japanese yew pine, graceful yew pine for Ellen, so she could have a Christmas tree. I took it out yesterday. Yeah, because they don't like living in the house. And I intend to use the tree for next year and maybe the year after. I've been gradually clipping it. It had just reached the point where it looked kind of conical. So I said, all right, Merry Christmas, brought it in. It was fun, but it has to go out quickly. If you have living potted trees, I'd get them out there, get them planted, get them wherever they're supposed to go. They don't do well in the house. If you have a cut tree, well, it's up to you, Russian roulette. How moist have you kept it, and so on and so forth. Some of the videos you see on YouTube of fire departments torching dry trees are pretty frightening. So watch it, watch out for those dry trees. Oh, I've talked about Christmas before and how I'm not very good at gift giving. I'm not. But Ellen got a new TV. Yeah, that and a laser to play with Gracie, and Gracie doesn't like the laser. So, when it comes to things you get from people that you really don't need or want, the thought was there, but, of course, there's this whole thing of re-gifting. I kind of gradually getting with that because it's a low impact, type of way to deal with this issue is find somebody you think maybe really wants that thing and give it to them. Just make sure you know not to give it back to the same person, and make sure the person who gave it to you wasn't present when you were giving it away to somebody else. Yeah, it gets complicated, the politics of re-gifting. But for most of us, a couple days after Christmas are really the big return days of the year. And I was surprised to find out that at this point, 40% of the retailers in the United States are now charging return fees to people who will bring back Christmas gifts. I understand their viewpoint on having to restock and all of this, and man, when I worked in the nursery, I used to get people, they'd bring me a bottle of malathion, chemical for bugs, and they'd say, I don't need it, I want to return it, and they have a receipt and the whole works. And okay, good. Yeah, later on, I take a look at the bottle and I realize, wait a minute, somebody loosened the lid. Hey, open up the lid. Oh, somebody pulled the seal off. Wait a minute, what's it? It was full of water. Yeah, I mean, I've seen things that, cartons that were, oh no, I never opened it. It was, and they're weighted with rocks and there's nothing inside the box. This does happen. And so I understand why the retailers are trying to protect themselves. But I also believe that if I went back to a store and I tried to bring something back and they told me, okay, well, but there's going to be a 15% restocking fee, I'm going to go, okay, charge me the fee and say goodbye, because you will never see me walk into this business ever again. Yeah. But I'm like that. I don't put up with a lot of stuff. Mess with me just one time, and it's over. Life's too short. I ain't going to deal with it. That's that simple. So that's pretty strange. Okay, here's a weird one. Salt in cereal. Yeah, as a man who periodically battles, high blood pressure, I do have to concern myself with how much sodium chloride I'm consuming. I am not a big salt freak. I'm the guy that, wipes cashews off on his shirt sleeve, or, dusts a potato chip off before I'll eat it. Generally don't eat foods like that, period. I remember seeing it might have been a PBS, probably was a PBS. Anyway, it was an educational thing about pygmies. African pygmies, and how the pygmies that live in the traditional native area where pygmies have always lived do not have high blood pressure. They are the only people on Earth that don't have it. But pygmies that pick up and move to the village, get to town and so on, they all got high blood pressure, and they got it bad. Well, it turns out where they live, there isn't any natural salt deposit. And so their diets are actually salt-free. But as soon as they get to town, they start eating potato chips and, hot dogs and everything else. And so the next thing you know is they got high blood pressure. So salt's a big part of it. But salt in cereal, I'm not sure when I became aware of this. I know that, you take down a oatmeal box or a 5-grain cereal or something. I made a 5-grain cereal this morning for breakfast, and every once in a while I forget to shake some salt in. Now, it's possible part of my life, I've actually ignored that little thing on the label that says half teaspoon of salt because it seems strange. Salt in my cereal. I tell you, as soon as I forget, like I did today, I'll put it in my mouth and I'll taste it and I go, it's not as delicious as usual. What's wrong with my cereal? Maybe it's not sweet enough? Did I not put enough, honey or something in here? When you leave the salt out, and even a small amount of it, the cereal tastes like it may not have enough sweet material in it, but you could double the amount of sweetener you put in that cereal, and it's not going to fix the problem, that edginess of the salt. Kind of a strange situation there, but yeah, forgot the salt in my cereal again this morning. Darn it, I do that about once a month. You're busy and forget to shake some. I don't need it, but man, can I tell the difference? It's like, I understand why, a French fry just doesn't taste right without salt. A baked potato without a little bit of salt on top. Now, I much prefer a little salt on my baked potatoes, but the idea of salt in my oatmeal, that doesn't immediately connect for me. But boy, when I put it in my mouth, it does. Yeah. So, let's see. It has been one interesting year, hasn't it? It depends on how you look at interesting, but it has been quite the year. And it just doesn't look like next year is going to be getting a whole lot better anytime soon. We're still dealing with aftermath of so many things. We say the COVID is still flowing around. It's not stopping. It continues to mutate. The economic problems created globally because of a pandemic that shut down business over the planet. It's still happening. Yeah, that's still going on. They haven't put the Trumpster in jail yet, and so that is going on. It's been a slow roll. Holy smoke. And so, yeah, that's gradually heading in directions there. So, I'm sure all of you by now have realized that Colorado had decided that Trump had engaged in an insurrection. Now Maine has followed, and as they say, as goes Maine, so goes the nation. We'll see about that one. They also said the same thing about California, and California recently flipped it around and said, no, he's going on the ballot. Maine says, no, he's not on the ballot. These two supposedly lead the nation. We'll see what comes from that, but it's quite interesting. We'll see how that happens, and I do find myself amazed by the polls. Now, I don't put too much stock in polls, all right, but nevertheless, they do them, and I do find it very difficult to believe. I don't care how old and crotchety Biden looks. Whether he looks feeble or not, there's no comparison. I cannot see these polls that are putting, Trump leading all the others in his party and being neck and neck or worse with Biden. It's hard to imagine. It really is. Yeah, it's just so hard to imagine. I'm not sure what the people that support this guy think they saw happen there on January 6th, and then since, because he wants to go after his political enemies if he gets reelected. This is what every good dictator does. He wants to remove parts of the Constitution and so on and so forth. So many protections that Americans have had that made this a great country to live in. Donald Trump has been continuously, ever since he got out of office, promising to get rid of all this stuff. And there's only one person that would benefit being reelected. That's only one person that would benefit from Trump's reelection, and that's Trump, because he could manage to figure out some way or another how to legally untangle himself and pardon himself from being the insurrectionist that he clearly was. But when they talk about polls, and look, the guy... He tried desperately to throw the last election. I mean, it's coming to task. We can see now as it runs through the courts just what was going on out there. All right, he's trying to overthrow the government and trying to throw the election. So with these polls about how he's so popular, such a popular guy, hey, if you can manage to try to throw an election and come damn close to it, what's the problem in fudging polls? Polls are nothing. They're not legal. They're not anything. They're just, we surveyed some people and this is what they thought, So it's pretty easy to create crap in the polls, which we will hope that's exactly what we're experiencing, because otherwise I can't figure it out. No. You dismiss everything else plain. The man is plain too rude to be an American president. Yeah. A little bit of tact is really required. It's important. I come into the public in a tiny little way on my camera all the time. I try to remain tactful. Now, I'm not running for president. I'm not worried about going to jail at the moment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a few concerns, all right, but I still try to remain civil. Whether some of you like what it is that I have to deliver is another story. I still try to deliver it in a civil fashion. I fail occasionally. Yeah, I do. It happens. Some things just get me too worked up. Yeah, so New York party. Hey, this is... I've always kind of been a go with the flow sort of a guy, all right? I mean, I love the idea of a good party. Absolutely. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, as a musician, for half of my life, I played for them. This is, what I did. And so as a matter of fact, one of the last bands that I worked with was called Party Boy. It was a trio. We were a stand-up comic rock and roll act, man. That's what we did. We made parties. Yeah, it made for a good paycheck. Barkeepers love it when you make a party for them. A lot of booze sold, and so on. So, I like a party. When it comes down to saying, this day is special, New Year's Day, Christmas Day is a special day, or whatever it is, that to me is sort of silly. One day is the same as another day as far as I'm concerned. Now, obviously, the New Year's thing has to do with the fact that the Earth made another circuit around the sun. It's been doing that for a long time. It's probably going to continue doing it for a while. The fact that we hit another circuit, all right, it's a good excuse for a party, but as far as, is that day actually special? No. There's nothing special about any day that we consider special, except we make it special. Sure, yeah, it's a special day. Let's party. And having parties is good, especially around the darkest time of the year. Christmas, New Year's. Yeah, that's when things get tough, boy. We're going into the winter and so on. Starvation may have come upon the land and so on. That's a good time to party. But the security around the New York thing and the dropping of the ball, in my mind, it's just my opinion, it's getting to the point it ain't even worth it. I wouldn't gather for that. They got dogs, they got police, they're sniffing for bombs, they're worried about terrorists, about bad actors causing trouble, and so on and so forth. I'm telling you what, a large public party in a lot of the United States today is just an excuse for somebody to come in and start to screw stuff up. Yeah, we've lost our minds as far as being able to understand why we party and what these things are about. It's just an opportunity for certain people. Man, if I had anything to do with this, there'd be no more balls dropped in New York City. Forget it. Stay home. Get drunk. Do whatever you want to do, but it ain't happening here in the streets. I'd be blowing it off. There's so much cops, so much money, so much trouble, so much concern. That's not a party anymore. I don't think it is anyway. Here we still have... to a certain extent, New Year's party. People get drunk here on New Year's, and so stuff happens when you get drunk. That's the way it is. But in general, the danger of being on the Big Island in Puna during New Year's is inhaling too much gunpowder fumes from the fireworks. Yeah, that gets heavy. Yeah, the whole place stinks of gunpowder before dawn comes. So that's probably your biggest concern is air pollution. Seriously. I mean, sorry, I'm sure somewhere someone got drunk and knifed another guy someplace. It always seems to happen, more so lately. But, yeah. So, this whole party thing, though, I mean, COVID is still here. All right, it has not gone away. I know, yeah, I'm going to hear it because of this, but get real, guys. It hasn't gone away. All right, it's still here. It's evolving. It has mutated. My sister-in-law recently caught it. She hadn't been up to date on her shots, and my brother kept going, you got to get your shot. And she got COVID, and so it's around. We don't have too much of it here, and we are kind of isolated in the middle of the ocean, and so it's not as bad. I think they spread a lot of it during the holidays on the mainland. There's so much people face to face, But the idea on New Year's, now let's think back. What do we do on New Year's? In places where they can shoot off firecrackers, they shoot off firecrackers. Yeah, that's typical. But you can't do that in most places anymore. So what else do we do on New Year's? Well, we gather. We drink. Yeah, we gather, we drink, and what do you do at the stroke of midnight? You kiss! Yeah! I mean, hey, man, I played for years every darn New Year's party. Never missed a one because I was always in a band, and they always needed some band for a New Year's party, man. And stroke of midnight, yeah, it's burned into my memory. I have PTSD of people's wives jumping up and grabbing the guitarist and planting way more than a kiss on the guy as I look over her shoulder and I see her husband out there in the crowd looking at it, and I'm going, I got nothing to do with this. I got nothing to do with this. Yeah, that's what we would do. Yeah, and it went well beyond kissing. Okay, especially when there was plenty of alcohol around and it was a bar setting, it had been a party. It goes well beyond kissing. And, well, it's flu season. COVID ain't gone away. They're worried about terrorists out in the street throwing a bomb or some darn thing. And what is the point? The only other thing we had left that we really did on New Year's was get drunk. I don't get drunk anymore, okay? I hardly drink, period. But it really takes all the fun out of it. It just takes all the fun out of it. I would not. If I was in New York and they dropped the ball and people started kissing, I'd be running. I'd be getting out of there. I'm sorry. Yeah, drunk or not, I'd be out of there. I'm not going to get kissed. I offered my son one drink off of my beer glass some time ago, and I caught COVID from him that he didn't know he had already, and it was not fun. Oh, no. And I was pretty much up on my shots on top of it, so one short. Yeah, so I ain't got to be running around New Year's kissing anybody. I'll be over here inhaling gunpowder fumes. I really don't drink anymore much because of I get gout reactions if I drink, especially beer, which is my preferred beverage. Yes, I like beer. Beer is food, as far as I'm concerned. It used to be food. I used to brew beer and so on, but I did just yesterday bring in a 12-pack of beer, local craft stuff, into the house on request because my brother and my sister-in-law sent me this bag of a bread mix that requires one bottle of beer. And so rather than let it sit in the pantry and get old, I'm going to make it. So I didn't have any beer around. We haven't been drinking anything hardly at all here. Nothing. And I'd send Ellen out for some beer, and I said, well, it's New Year's, what the heck, maybe somebody drop in. So she showed up yesterday with this cold 12-pack of Kona, and hi, Gracie. And Gary came by with eggs for us, and I said, Gary, look what I got. I got a 12-pack of beer. You want one? Oh, no. Now, Gary used to always share a beer with me until he got sick, and they figured out he had high blood pressure, and I don't remember what else anymore, but problems. And so they got him some pharmaceuticals that really hit the number on him, man. He's like a new guy, yeah, and he doesn't drink anymore. He used to come by here, and we'd share a couple of beers, but, you know, maybe I'll talk him into coming by on New Year's, and we'll drink one together. So, yeah, you know, that's kind of like it, man. Gathering, kissing, drinking. I don't know. Does anybody else know anything else that we ever did on New Year's? That's the only thing I'm aware of. We partied, we got drunk, and so speaking of getting drunk, I don't, as I say, engage in alcohol very much anymore, and I seldom talk about it here on the channel either, too. It's not really appropriate. But on the other hand, alcohols are all based on plant fermentations. I guess they fit into a gardening channel, right? Yeah, right, Gracie? Yeah. My Kit Kat. She come to see me. She'd been up on the front porch. Yeah, so I was at Moon and Turtle. Now, anybody here on the island who has not been to Moon and Turtle, make a reservation. This is a great restaurant. Oh, it's so good. But if you don't have a reservation, consider yourself lucky if you can manage to get a seat at the bar. Twice I have sat at the bar and eaten, which is educational. The barkeeps know a lot about the business, and I learned plenty by talking to the bartender. But I was sitting there and enjoying some smoky sashimi. I'm having a hard time with my lips this morning. I'm looking at the bar, and I see a bottle of golden colored liquid, but it's got Japanese characters on it. And, well, whereas I'm very used to drinking sake from Japan, and I've had enough Japanese beer in my life, too. Rice beer is not my favorite, but it'll do. It's all right. Sake and beer, I guess. I was not really aware of much else other than plum wine out of Japan. What can I tell you? I drank plenty of whiskey in my life, but it's been American and Canadian. I really never went any further abroad. Well, I'm looking up there, and this is what I saw. And so I asked the barkeep, I said, what the heck is that bottle over there? And she says, oh, that's Japanese whiskey. Yeah, that's Toki Suntory whiskey. Really? They make whiskey? Yeah, since 1923, according to the label here. Well, yeah. What I got, about 4 inches? Yeah, oak. I can smell oak on this stuff off 4 inches. I don't know if they import American oak to age this in or if they use Japanese oak trees or whatever, but they're definitely using oak barrels. This stuff is pretty good. It's pretty average proof, I guess, 86 proof for a whiskey, which is not too weird. I've had a few of them that were up like over 130. Those are really memorable. Anyway, like I said, I don't drink very much, but it's New Year's, so someone come on by and let's share a shot of this stuff because it's good. It's real good stuff. And then there was this. These are all Christmas presents from Ellen. See? She has a collection of liquor bottles. It sits over the refrigerator in a cabinet. Yeah, we collect more than drink the stuff. But okay, now this guy here, this Kohana. It's what he calls agricole rum, Hawaiian agricole rum. We have hand-cultivated over 30 different native varieties of sugarcane brought to Hawaii by Polynesian settlers 1,000 years ago. Harvested and pressed to juice, these canes are distilled to perfection. The result is one of the world's finest pure cane rums. This is white. It was harvested April 2023, and the cane variety was Kea. So they have even the variety of the cane here. I'd heard about this guy on the airplane, Hawaiian Airlines. I was reading Hanaho, that's the magazine, and they had an article about this dude and about all the different canes that he grows. I mean, he had several dozen types of heirloom canes, and apparently each one of the canes makes a rather distinct liquor. He brews these batches and labels each batch by the cane. What's up, Gracie? You smell something? I don't think it's the rum. Bottle sealed. I haven't opened it yet. She's smelling the Japanese whiskey. That's what it is. It smells like oak over here. Yeah. So, New Year's coming. I'll crack that bottle of rum and give it a try. I have been really hot on local rum here. As far as hard liquor is concerned, which I, again, do not consume very much, but when I do consume it, I don't like it mixed. I like my coffee straight. Don't put a lime in my beer, thank you. And you keep the 7-Up out of my whiskey. Yeah. Ice would be borderline. Okay, an ice cube. Maybe, but I generally drink whiskey out of a shot glass anyway. You can't put an ice cube in there, so you drink it at room temperature. So I'm just that kind. I don't like it mixed. I can't handle mixed drinks, the orange juice and all the sugars and stuff in there. They kind of make me sick. Yeah, I know it's very disagreeable if I was to just have a few beers or drink a few shots of whiskey or something. I'd probably wake up in the morning a little blurry, but I'll be okay. But I start that mixed drink stuff, and next thing you know is I'm sick. Ugh, my stomach will go. Right, Greasy? Huh? And my kitty's here with me.
Yeah. Well, Gracie, what are we going to do today? You hear that rain out there? Huh? It's raining. Yeah, I know. Oh well. Aloha, everybody. Hang loose.